You don't mention the monarch. It's a bit like a trade union. If you ask the question, you can get an answer you want and stop it at the point it gives you the action you want to achieve.
Nigel.cecil, calling things out as you like it, especially for his fair-minded friends.
Hello, Chakabatis, welcome. Thank you for joining me, Nigel Cecil, because, as invariably happens, along with my very good friend Hilary, we endeavour to do the research on your behalf because you get in touch via our usual email address to bring to our attention your comments, views, observations and questions. We then do the research and present the facts. We're endeavouring also, equally and fairly, in order to stimulate some discussion. The channel originally started because of Equity. Equity, the trade union for professional actors, variety entertainers and other creatives across the United Kingdom, because we've been involved in Equity for many, many years, and there now seems to be, well, a sort of separation between the ideology that's driving Equity and the general membership. And it's hard to get the message out there, but we do try. Not that often do we get many views, but these videos about Sir Keir Starmer, more views than we've ever had. So when you ask the question 2 videos ago, can Sir Keir Starmer call a general election? We did the research and we ended up using the information provided by the BBC to give us our answer. But when we posted it, someone said, hey, come on, Nigel, have you seen the video by Stephen Barrett, barrister, constitutional barrister? And we actually put the link in the last video because we were asked the question, can Sir Keir Starmer call a general election? And Stephen was answering the question, can Sir Keir Starmer force a general election? And you said, how does this come about? Because both were correct, but one was more correct than the other. And guess what? It was Stephen Barrett, we decided, was more correct. Check out the 2 videos and have a look at Stephen's video and see what you think, because they get 250,000 views, 900 times or so more than the views we get. But we have created fun doing these videos, but I'm digressing. Because now you've said, what's it all about? How come the BBC got 1 answer? We gave them 5 out of 10. And Stephen Barrett, 10 out of 10. It's because the BBC stopped at a certain point. And that point was where, well, you don't mention the monarch. You don't mention the monarch. It's a bit like a trade union. If you ask the question, you can get an answer you want and stop it at the point it gives you the action you want to achieve. But if you carry on and give all the information, you might say, hey, just a minute. So the BBC stopped at the point where it was what the Prime Minister could do. But if you looked at the Constitution, now some will say, well, the Constitution, it's very complicated, and it is. But it's not complicated when you get right down to it, because it's not codified, it's not written down, it's all established events, established principles. Ask the question of Stephen Barrett, because I'm sure they're more able to explain than I am, because I have no qualifications, but it puts us all to the same level, looking at the information and trying to determine what is obvious. Because at grassroots, that's what we do. That's obvious. And someone will say, no, it's not. It should be this. It should be the other. But when you look at the evidence, and others seem to forget this, the relationship between the king, the monarch, and Parliament is really unique to our system. Over the years, it's built this balance, which means so much. And of course, those who don't like the monarchy, those who want a president who they can elect, who they can control, can be party political, divisive, like things happen. Well, just look at America. But they think, well, we'll get our candidate elected. We'll be in control of the country, the nation. But there's one thing everyone overlooks when it comes to the United Kingdom. The way things now are, whilst there is a monarch or a queen in the constitution, king or queen, we can never have a dictator. The first thing someone who aspires to being a dictator needs to do, get rid of the monarchy. So if someone sidelines the monarchy, are they trying to get rid of it? And it's all a question of cancellation by stealth. When you hear about a university stopping someone, well, we're not having them at our debate because they're too right wing. You're aware of that. But stealth cancellation, just failing to mention someone, put them in the background, you may begin to think, well, they're irrelevant. We don't need them. It's costing us a lot of money. But here we come. How many have heard of the Golden Triangle? We haven't heard of it, have we, Hillary? The Golden Triangle. Now, the Golden Triangle consists of, well, three people. There's the King's own private secretary, the Prime Minister's principal private secretary, and then there's the Cabinet Secretary. Now, those three posts are known as the Golden Triangle, and they are charged with keeping the king in touch with what is actually going on with the government overarchingly. So if the Prime Minister suddenly says, well, we're calling a general election, just try it if you haven't got the support of Parliament. Because, in fact, the king is able to consult anyone. There is no restriction on who the king is able to consult. And their first port of call is the Golden Triangle, those members. And they are charged with giving advice to the king as to what the Parliament as a whole, his government, is likely to do. So Sir Keir Starmer, in the current situation, can call a general election, but they will know in doing so, the king, through the Golden Triangle, is likely to ask, would Sir Keir Starmer have a majority in Parliament to support such a call? And if the Golden Triangle and anyone else the king consulted said no, they would not be able to command a majority in Parliament, then the king is quite entitled to say, I'm going to defer responding to your request, Sir Keir Starmer, because we need to consult with others. And enabling that breathing space to consult with others, Parliament would be able to actually say, this is the will of Parliament, and overrule the Prime Minister, and the Golden Triangle would so actually inform the king. Now, those will say, well, it can't possibly happen. The government, well, could never be overruled by the king. And the answer is no, because they'd never go against the will of Parliament as the Constitution currently is, unless it was Cromwell's time or something. But we're now all more aware. So you have to ask the question, why did the BBC not actually carry the question and the answer all the way through to considering the role of the monarch? There are those amongst our viewers who are saying, well, that's because they don't support the monarchy. They want a president, and they want to elect a president. Now, this is where cancellation by stealth comes in. Over the years, you make something feel irrelevant. It's not needed. Why pay the money? Why have all the pomp and circumstance? And just look at all the pomp and circumstance. Anyone visiting here, the President of the United States, all the pomp and circumstance they have in their own country. Won't be any cheaper. But remember that we've discovered, and we hope we're right. Please let us know what you think. whilst we have a monarchy, the way things currently are interpreted with our non-codified constitution based on what has gone before. In the United Kingdom, the continuation of the monarchy as it is today ensures there can never be a dictator. Do let us know what you think by getting in touch with our usual email address. And in doing this research, we've come across something that tells you all about stealth cancellation and how, by assuming because somebody else has done something, you're actually contributing to cancelling the monarchy. We'll deal with that. I think we better do the one on artificial intelligence next because we've been promising it and delaying and delaying. So the video after next, just think about it. What is it that could be going on now within Parliament, within the political parties? And remember, His Majesty the King has to be apolitical. What is it we think we've discovered? Be nice if we could get the advice of Stephen Barrett. But what is it we think we've discovered that shows stealth cancellation, encroachment, and a misuse of one's association with His Majesty the King? Until that video, do keep your emails coming into our usual email address. And from Hilary and moi, thank you for taking part. We do appreciate at our old age, it gives a little bit of creative fun. Bye for now, Chuckabutties.